Hey, what is up, everybody? Sorry for getting set up here. Hope you are all having a good day or night so far, wherever you're coming in from. What's up, Ismail? There's 0% chance I'll actually pronounce your name right, so sorry about that, man. Vincent, what's going on, brother? What's going on? Cheers. I'm hitting a double take right now. I got coffee. I just stopped at Starbucks, had a huge meal. I got coffee and then leftover beer from last night. I had four of them last night, so the other two are for tonight. Doing well, guys. How you guys doing? Hope all is well, and the little bit of a market recovery today so far is treating you guys all right. I'm just pulling everything up now. Sweet. So today, for the next hour or so, wanted to just hop on this kind of live chat today. Talk a little bit about what's going on in the markets overall. Leonardo, what's up, my brother? Talk a little bit about what's going on in the markets overall. I'm actually going to I thought it was going to be a live meetup group, but it's actually a live stream. So it's a cryptocurrency trading live stream that's happening tonight at 8 p.m. So I'm going to be watching that just to see what some other people are talking about in the space. I had a buddy recommend it, so I'm going to be taking a look at that for tonight at 8 p.m. or so. If you guys want a link to that, I can just throw it in here so that if you want to show up to that, I literally have no affiliation with it. I have no idea if it'll be good or not, quite frankly. But if you want to go, or if you want to check out what I'm checking out from a crypto trading perspective over at 8 p.m. Eastern time, that's what I'm gonna do after we finish up this conversation. So as far as today goes, yeah, guys, if you have any questions, definitely sound off in the comments. Would love to hear them. But really, for the most part, today has been a nice little bit of a recovery from the overall crash of, not necessarily crash, but the post-China ICO regulation correction, whatever you want to call it. It's been a little bit of a nice move upwards. Obviously, a lot of things haven't fully recovered from where they have been. A few have recovered really nicely, though, and that being Litecoin has recovered pretty nicely. Omise Go, OMG, has been crushing it, honestly. Like, OMG is basically back at its all-time highs, which is pretty phenomenal to see. And if you held OMG, if you bought OMG on the dip, that's been pretty awesome to see there as well. I'll actually scroll down so we can see that. But OMG's had a really good week since everything happened, and a couple of basically the only two things that are not in the green today, at least in the top 20, are Neo and Qtum, both which have the tie-in to China overall. So I'm gonna pour this beer up. Somebody said last night my motor oil. So, yeah, I mean, as far as things in the top 20 go, too, once I get this going, really the only thing that has the two things that have been down are Qtum and Neo, and everything else is in the green, as you can see. It's been a pretty good day for the most part, unless you are a cryptocurrency that has any type of relationship at all to China, which is not ideal. So somebody just mentioned the meetup is actually Thursday, October 5th. That might be. I just looked at that. My buddy told me that was today. Maybe it's not today, and maybe it's next month. So maybe I'm not going to a meetup tonight. Maybe I'm talking to you guys for longer than an hour. So we'll see how that turns out. But I guess that is not tonight. So yeah, I'm an idiot, and I'm gonna go yell at my buddy too, because he posted in our Slack group that was today. So I'm gonna make fun of him a little bit. So Matt mentioned Lisk, and this is something that I'm looking at a little bit right now. Looking at a number of different privacy coins and some other crypto here. I'll pull up Lisk so we can take a quick look at it, but Lisk is one of it's had a pretty good run as of late, I would say. Obviously, you look at September, it's pretty much crushed it since coming out of nowhere in May, and even in June and July, it's over At this point in time, it's over $750 million in market cap, down from back in August when it didn't do all that much and then really crushed it in the past 2 weeks or so. I would be a little bit personally hesitant to buy on such a big move upwards. I mean, it's gone from 200 something million dollars in market cap up to, it's tripled, close to quadrupled. So I'd be a little bit potentially hesitant to go into Lisk at this point in time. I'll need to do a little bit more analysis as far as the actual technology behind it and whether or not it's worth the valuation. But for me, I mean, that's a pretty kind of rich move upwards, and it really didn't correct all that much. So it's something that's held up nicely. Hopefully, if you've been investing, you've held on to that and taken in those gains, because it's basically at all-time highs now at this point in time. So somebody mentioned the Ethereum ETF submission to the SEC. That's actually something that, let's see if I can maybe pull that up here. There we go. So here's actually, I submitted this on Reddit this morning, just to the ETH Trader group or the ETH Trader subreddit. And this is an official SEC government document to the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. You can see here, it's the Ether Index Ether Trust Fund. And essentially, or not even the fund, it's just the Ether Index Ether Trust. And basically what this is it is the ETF, or it's a company that's trying to be the ETF or an ETF for Ethereum that is publicly traded. It is a registered security according to the SEC, and this would allow for individuals to buy Ethereum or buy basically Ethereum through this ETF via, whether it's, I don't know if this would be on the New York Stock Exchange or if this would be on NASDAQ or if it'd be somewhere else. But essentially, the idea here is to have the Ether Index Trust, as the place for you to purchase, whether it's through E-Trade, if it's through Scottrade, if it's through any brokerage account or directly through a broker, if anybody still uses freaking brokers now. But basically, you could go and you could buy Ethereum, you could buy Ether through Scottrade, E-Trade, whatever you might want to do as well, which would be really interesting. And that's certainly a bullish sign. I didn't go all the way through. I posted it, but it's a somewhat lengthy document. I haven't read the entire thing, but if this goes through, Bitcoin ETFs have been denied previously by the SEC. So number one, Bitcoin index, Bitcoin ETFs, the Winklevosses had a big ETF. That was kind of one of the big plans, was to do I don't even think it was exclusively Bitcoin. I think it was really crypto, but primarily Bitcoin. But they had an ETF that was denied by the SEC or by the SEC. But with that being said, there is apparently somebody who was on the legal team for the Winklevoss twins that was helping them with the SEC regulation and trying to get their ETF approved, is now actually working, I believe, with the SEC or working with the government in some capacity, in the position where that individual who was on the legal team previously would be the one kind of checking the box and saying, yes, this is approved. So somewhat of a positive sign if that individual can maintain basically what they had seen working with the potential Bitcoin ETF and utilize that for an Ethereum ETF or a Bitcoin and Ethereum, really just cryptocurrency in general ETF, I think would be a positive sign. And that would lead, in my opinion, to a really big flood of investments from a lot of different areas. I think that would open up the door for institutional money, which would be fantastic. If you think about cryptocurrency's overall market capitalization right now and the amount of money that large banks, that hedge funds, that private equity firms have available to them, and the overall market cap, the cryptocurrency market cap is literally a drop in the bucket. It's like nothing. So that's something that, if this money if an ETF gets approved, then it basically enables these companies or individual investors, like me or you, who might just have money in an IRA account or in a random Scottrade account or an E-Trade account, And rather than going through the hassle of Coinbase, you just want to sell some Coca-Cola stock and buy some Ethereum stock, you can essentially do that, which would be pretty damn cool to happen. So somebody just mentioned, am I in on Kyber or endorse? I am not in on Kyber. I've heard some really good things. I think I missed out on the actual registration period for that and missed out on the whitelist. So I am not in on Kyber, although it might be something that I'd be looking to purchase after the ICO happens. So definitely something that I'm looking to evaluate as much as possible. And I've heard good things and some interesting things about the project in general. So I'm excited to kind of hear how that continues to develop. I do think, and I talked about this a little bit earlier today, and I talked about it a little bit with somebody on Twitter today who's been in the cryptocurrency space for quite a while. And what we talked about primarily was centralized exchanges in the future may be getting in trouble from these guys. So the United States Securities and Exchange Commission in Washington, D.C., centralized exchanges like Bittrex, like Poloniex, ones at least based in the U.S., I think are going to be open to some pretty heavy regulation in regards to recently ICO tokens that might be traded on Bittrex or on Poloniex or on whatever. And the reason for that being is if they're considered securities under the Securities Act of 1933, if they're considered securities, Bittrex is going to want to limit their exposure to as much regulation as possible, or just obviously try and not get in trouble and get murdered by the law. So what might happen is, and what I potentially foresee happen is some cryptocurrencies might get delisted from some of these exchanges. New ICOs might not get listed as quickly or if at all on some of these exchanges as well. So you're going to start to see a lot more utilization of decentralized exchanges. But to that effect, I don't think some of the decentralized exchanges that are currently in place right now, I don't think they're as necessarily ready for prime time from just an overall usability perspective as something like a Bittrex. If you compare using, in my opinion at least, and I know some people like EtherDelta a lot, but if you compare using Bittrex to EtherDelta, I find the experience of using Bittrex significantly easier. So that's something that if Kyber can come past, and OX or 0x is another one, if 0x can make a really solid project as well. There's a lot of cryptocurrency decentralized exchanges that are kind of vying for that spot. And I think that those are going to be important as more regulation comes and potentially threatens some of what's going on with these centralized exchanges. So a couple people mentioned Omise Go and Golem. I'm not too much up on Golem at this point in time, quite frankly. I'll check out the OMG charts. Let me see here. Let me pull this. So I'll pull up the OMG charts. We'll look at the US dollar for the hell of it. And I'll pull up the 4-hour charts just so we can take a good look here. But so if we're looking at the 4-hour charts, Danny, yeah, definitely let me know, man. But if we're looking at the 4-hour charts at this point in time, OMG had a run up to close to $13, about $12.50, and then there was kind of the little bit of the kind of mini correction here, and then the news of the China ICO ban, where that went from being worth about $10.50 to being worth $8 and change, and has since run up almost back to its all-time highs. I'm feeling very positive on OMG. I am a holder of OMG. If you have seen my portfolio, if you saw my latest video, it's my biggest holding right now, actually, or my second biggest in comparison to Ethereum. So OMG, I'm very bullish on. And from everything and from all the conversations that I kind of have with a bunch of different people around, whether they're technical analysis, trade, basically former traders, whatever, from a chart standpoint, they really like what they're seeing with OMG. So that gives me a lot of confidence. I'm not necessarily a TA expert by any stretch. I really don't know all that much about TA. So I lean on them. But from an overall just market sentiment standpoint, I mean, if we go on the amount of people asking me about a certain cryptocurrency, OMG is always top 5. Not that that necessarily means anything, but there's a lot of excitement behind it. There's a lot of investors in it. So I'm holding unless something significantly changed. I held from here all the way through this drop. I didn't buy more because I didn't have enough fiat really to do that. But that's, I'm still excited about where we are and how the recovery's happened. So Danny mentioned the market was correcting before the China ICO ban news. Why is everyone attributing the correction to China? So, I mean, the market was definitely correcting if we look. So we'll just take a look here. The market, and even if you look at the OMG charts, so the market, from the OMG standpoint, from OMG's top to like this, let's say right here, which is right around when the news came out about the China ICO ban, OMG was down about 15%. And granted, OMG isn't the only one that was down, but OMG was down about 15%. In basically the 8 hours after, the 12 hours really after the ICO ban news, it was down an additional 25%, and that was specifically news driven. So a lot of cryptocurrency, not just OMG, but a lot of cryptocurrency was specifically down based upon that news. So that's something that it wasn't all of it, and it wasn't, the ICO news didn't necessarily have to do with everything right here, but it definitely was responsible for this right here. And people sold off like crazy. I mean, you could see the sell volume even on a cryptocurrency like OMG that's had a really good run. So Christopher mentioned, do I usually use USD for crypto charting or versus BTC? It depends. I'll do a little bit of both. Sometimes I'll use USD, sometimes I'll do Bitcoin, sometimes I'll do Ethereum. I don't think there's necessarily one right or wrong way to do it. I mean, in some cases though, when you have these massive drops or not necessarily massive drops, but Bitcoin, I'm looking to increase my stacks of Bitcoin. I'm looking to increase my stacks of Ethereum. But it's difficult in some respects to trade some of these altcoins or just to kind of look at the charts on them, I think. And then, from a comparison of, at least from a valuation standpoint, is kind of what I look at from a valuation standpoint of how does it compare to, how does it compare to a Bitcoin when Bitcoin, moves so much as well. So, it might look like it's having a great move, but it's really not doing all that much if it was running opposite of Bitcoin. But that's a good point there for sure. Just reading these comments as they come in, so sorry if I'm just kind of looking over to the side. I have a second monitor there. So Sam mentioned, do I think the Fibonacci pattern has fully played out? Seems like we're missing the third leg down before a true recovery. I don't know if it's fully, I don't know if that pattern is fully played out. I've heard a couple different people mention the fact that we might be in for a third leg on a correction standpoint. Let's pop back here. Now, we had basically Bitcoin went up to that $5,000 point, pushed $5,000, got slammed back down to 4,600 or so, and then had a little bit of a kind of stabilized a little bit and kind of a slight movement down. And the China ICO news came out and it dropped on the China ICO news a little bit, dropped a little bit more, and then has recovered and is now kind of chilling above 4,600. It wouldn't shock me to see, it would not shock me by any stretch to see another leg down. And I'm not necessarily, if it happens, I'm not like, to be honest, if it happens, I'm not afraid of it by any stretch. I don't know if I'd sell it all. I might just use that as an opportunity to buy back in. I think overall, as things continue to progress, the two of the big things that I'm really interested in seeing is institutional money coming into the Bitcoin space, and then Ethereum rolling out things like Raiden and Metropolis and becoming and kind of like fulfilling its vision of actually being a platform that could really power decentralized applications and handle all these ICOs and things like that without getting a network that gets clogged up like it does now, because it only can take 7 transactions a second. So I think when Ethereum can get a lot of the, figure out some of the technicals behind it, and I think that is going to get figured out for sure. And then when Bitcoin gets some institutional money into it, and hopefully can stop everybody in Bitcoin can stop yelling at each other about SegWit and SegWit, SegWit 2x, no SegWit 2x, Bitcoin Cash, and everybody can just hold hands and figure it the fuck out. That would be awesome, so that we could actually get some people externally to put money into it as well, which would be pretty cool to see. So somebody mentioned Neo. And I'll pull up the Neo charts as well. I'll just look at on a USD basis just for the hell of it. Not necessarily on it's a US dollar tether basis at least, but I'll pull this up, take a look at it. So Neo, let's see here. Put these charts a little bit. So I'll just do a 6-hour chart here just to kind of make everything fit on the same screen. So Neo was up to a high of about $50-something. For full transparency, I bought Neo at, said it before, but for full transparency, I'll say it again. I bought Neo at $6 back when it was Ant shares. I sold it. I didn't sell it here after it kind of took a little bit of a dip and was recovering and went up back here on this green candle around here. I sold it at $38. And then kind of since then, it had that one initial big downturn when the rumor of the Chinese ICO regulations came out right here. That was kind of the initial downturn. And then when the Chinese ban actually came out, it went down here. So as of right now, Neo is chilling at about $21. It doesn't look like it has a ton of momentum moving in the right direction, but I do agree with a lot of people that it could potentially be a bargain. I think it is a little bit of a, in my opinion, right now, it's a high risk, high reward type play. So it's a high risk, high reward type play for a Neo investor. This, in my opinion, Neo could go from $21 down to $15 or $14 probably fairly easily. It could probably also go up pretty easily to $40 or $45. So if Neo can fulfill its vision and a lot of the kind of like fear, uncertainty, and doubt regarding the China ICOs and all that stuff passes, then I think Neo will be fine. But in the near term, you might need to be comfortable if you want to buy in at this point, seeing it drop down a little bit, because it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't look like, the charts just don't look like there's a ton of momentum in the right direction to me. I mean, all you really have to do is zoom out a little bit and just see basically a straight down line. So I'm personally staying out on Neo right now. I'm not invested in it at this point. I moved my Neo investment into Ethereum and into OMG, both of which have panned out okay. OMG specifically has panned out really well, but for me personally, I'm trying to wait. I was initially, back before this news came out, I was initially waiting to see if Neo would break above $36 or $37, or if it would go below 30. It's obviously well below 30 now, but I'm kind of seeing, I want to see it shake out a little bit. I want to see it move significantly to the upside before I take that risk and buy back in, or move to move down even lower so I can buy in cheaper. But right now I'm not in at this point in time, just quite frankly. Taking a second here to read some of these questions. So Danny mentioned, I think a big correction is inevitable and perhaps even needed to retrace the humongous gains over the past years, or over the past year. I don't know if it's inevitable, but I think it's highly possible that a big correction could come into place. I mean, all you have to do is look at CoinMarketCap, and even just from a total market cap perspective, I mean, you could do a year to date, and it's pretty clear that the market has grown an incredible amount from less than $20 billion in market cap to over $160 billion in market cap. I mean, that's fantastic growth for a market. That's probably, as good as an investment as you will ever see. Potentially even, anytime in the future. Who knows if cryptocurrency will ever be able to grow at the rate that it did in 2017. So a correction could certainly be in order. I don't necessarily know if and when it's going to happen. If I knew a correction was going to happen, and if I knew why it would happen and when it would happen, I'd, number one, probably be pretty rich. Number two, I'd probably tell you guys and share the love. But I mean, I think any sane person would look at these charts and probably think, yeah, like a correction is a high possibility just due to the growth. But whether that happens or not and when that happens is obviously remains to be determined. But I would be ready if and when that happens, and I would have an understanding of what you're going to do when a potential correction happens. Do you want to hold on? Do you want to sell some cryptocurrency? Basically just have like a list of things you're going to do when the market it's almost like those like doomsday prepper people that have that list of like, okay, when stuff goes to shit, I'm going to grab my AK-47, I'm going to grab my AR-15, I got 10 cans of Campbell's soup, and I got a backpack full of, I got a backpack full of 9mm ammo, and we're going to take my Jeep and head to the hills. I mean, I think the same is almost kind of true for crypto. If it all goes to shit, what are you going to do? Are you going to sell some of it? Are you going to sell all of it? Are you going to hold it and just grin and bear it? Do you have a bunch of fiat in the background that you're ready to just pounce on a market movement that goes way down? What are you going to do? Just have a plan in place. I think that's important for sure. So Monaco, a couple people mentioned Monaco, and I can see. Let me just pull these homeboys up. So Monaco is a cryptocurrency, and it's somewhat of a direct. Let's say it's a direct competitor to 10x. And Monaco was, after its ICO, had a pretty small ICO and was really sitting at a sub $20 million market cap, sub $10 million market cap for quite a while. And it basically spiked out of nowhere in the middle of August. Like literally had like no volume at all, basically. Spiked real hard in August, going from $15 million in market cap to $100 million to $175 million to $200 million, and is now below $100 million again. So a couple of different people are asking, what's the deal with that? I mean, I think that's probably a little bit of, not probably, a lot of FOMO buying. You can also see that the price, it fairly kept track with the price of Bitcoin as well. It was pretty closely aligned to that, but also scooted up quite a bit as far as things go. So I'm not in on Monaco. I'm not in on 10x Pay Token. I tried to get in on the 10x ICO, and my transaction didn't go through. That was one of the ones that kind of flew out, basically that clogged the ETH network and sold out in 10 minutes. So I didn't set my gas high enough on the 10x Pay Token ICO, so I didn't get into that. I wish I did, because I would be up like 5 or 10x, pretty damn solid stuff. But with that being said, Monaco is a pretty similar type of cryptocurrency to that, in the case where it's it's basically an app or a credit card where you can spend your crypto through said app, and there's a token that is associated with that. For me personally, I'm in the U.S. A lot of these cards like 10x and Monaco, at least 10x is not available in the United States. I would, for that same reason, I would doubt Monaco is. And to be completely honest with you, I view cryptocurrency more as a investment for me, and not something that I necessarily want to spend, although there are a lot of people that are very, very positive and high on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and want to not only just invest their cryptos, but also spend them and almost try and go around fiat currency in general. So that's certainly possible, and you can do that with something like Monaco. So Zen mentioned, am I going to participate in Enigma, Kyber, and Chainlink? I'd like to. I believe the whitelist and all the registrations are done at this point in time for all of those, and I didn't have time really to go ahead and participate in those. Enigma raised their cap on cryptocurrency or on their crowd sale or their token raise by like 50%. So I know that's pissed off a lot of people. And then I've heard some really good things about Kyber. I was talking about that a little bit beforehand, but outside of that, I am pretty positive on, at least in the near term, some of those hyped up ICOs. I'd like to get in on them if I could. I mean, even we can take a look over at we got Ether Delta. Take a quick looky-loo here at Ether Delta. So this one, I invested in the Moneta ICO. I talked about this a little bit recently, but this is up about 90% or so since the ICO. And it's one of those, at least from an ETH pairing perspective, it's one of those potential quick flips that I'm looking at participating in, or I have about, at this point in time, about 19,000 MTH. So I'm debating or not, how much should I flip now? How much should I flip it, or how much should I hold in the future? Where should I take those? But that was the most recent ICO I participated in was Moneta. So just taking a second to read through some of these comments as well. Somebody mentioned the Black Moon ICO. They actually reached out to me. I have an email from them, the Black Moon ICO, and that's something I could talk to you guys about too. I get a lot of outreach now because I'm a halfway famous stupid YouTuber, so I get a lot of these ICO companies reaching out directly to me regarding covering their ICO or covering their cryptocurrency on the channel. I haven't done that yet. I haven't really responded to many yet at all, just because I don't really want to be pushing stuff I'm not completely comfortable with, and I also don't want to be talking about anything where somebody could potentially lose a bunch of money. That makes me a little bit uneasy. But if people are like really interested in that, it's something I could potentially start doing, is talking more to these companies that are about to ICO, because I do, like I said, I get a fair amount of outreach from whether it's the founders of these companies or if it's like their marketing arm or whoever it might be. So that's something that I've debated a little bit in my head, and just to be as transparent as possible and things like that. I don't want to give anybody information that would potentially hurt them, and I've been a little bit uncomfortable with it so far. So, but yeah, to that point, Black Moon reached out, which is, kind of funny that you mentioned that. I haven't really spoken to them yet at all, but they wanted to have a little bit of feature on the channel. So that was that. But if you guys do have interest, in hearing about ICOs on the channel, I've been speaking to a few different people. So I've had people reach out to me in regards to ICOs, like I said. And then I'm also kind of working with and talking to somebody in Manhattan, in New York City, that I've started to get friendly with. Really good dude that crushes ICO research. He's phenomenal. I'm learning from him as much as possible, because this dude is solid as hell. So I'm trying to learn from him as much as possible. But seeing what the potential is there for us to kind of offer some type of additional ICO research, and which ones that you should potentially consider, because the opportunity is still there to make a lot of money on ICOs if you know where to look and if you're participating in good ones. So Kyber is a no U.S. citizens one. Not sure about that. I'm probably not going to be able to participate in it anyway, because I don't think I made the whitelist. So, yeah, thoughts there. So Sagar mentioned thoughts for safe and secure, possibly free wallet for Litecoin storage. I like Ledger. That's me personally. I use the old. Shown it before, but if you want to use a Ledger Nano S, it's pretty much it's the easiest way, I think, in my opinion, one of the easiest ways to kind of get things done and just keep your crypto safe. So I use the Ledger Nano S and then just hook that up with my Ether wallet when it's connected to my computer. And I like that. It's a solution that works well for me for sure. Just taking in some of these questions now as well. Somebody mentioned Ethereum Classic is doing pretty well. We'll take a look. Yeah, Ethereum Classic is definitely having a nice little comeback from the old China news, whatever we want to call it here. Ethereum Classic had a spike all the way up to plus $20 or so, and is now spiking back up to close to 19 plus. I am not in on Ethereum Classic. It's not necessarily it's not necessarily. I might dabble in Ethereum Classic, but I'm just not. It doesn't excite me as much as Ethereum does, so I'm not in on ETC. But obviously, I have some friends that have invested in it and have done well. And if you bought at the dip, like a lot of these cryptos, then you're sitting in green candles. Damn China, right? Yeah, right. So looking at these questions, thoughts on PIVX. A couple different people have mentioned that. I'll go and I'll see if I can pull that up on good old Coin Market Cap. Take a quick look. So PIVX, $212 million market cap. It has crushed it in the past couple of days for sure. Especially in the month of August, it's done pretty well, or since the month of August. Take a look at the website too. Up a respectable 8% today, and even 5% on top of what Bitcoin is doing. And this is one thing too, so I can talk about this. I talked about it a little bit. Fairly recently, but with these regulations that are happening at this point in time, with the regulations that are going on, I think that privacy coins are going to be increasingly important. I truly believe that. I think privacy coins are going to be important. So whether you're looking at PIVX, if you're looking at Monero, if you're looking at NAV, if you're looking at Zcash, whatever it might be, I think privacy coins are going to do well in the marketplace, because if it's people trying to skirt regulation, it could be a variety of things. But anonymous, private, secure transactions on a network, I think, are going to be important. So I think it's something that you want to keep an eye on. Me personally, I am not invested in PIVX right now. I'm not invested in Monero right now, but over the next couple of days, I'm probably going to put together a recorded video on privacy coins, which privacy coins that I'm going to invest in, and which one that I'm really excited about. So that's something that I am definitely keeping an eye on as we continue to move forward here for sure. And guys, if you are new to the channel as well, definitely hit the subscribe button. That would be super, super awesome. I would really appreciate that. I know I have this little ticker running below, just playing with this OBS software. I actually forgot to put the YouTube comments up on the screen like an idiot today. So I'll have to wait till next time. But if you are new, hit the subscribe button. That would be super awesome to have you join. I do daily recorded videos, and then I also do a couple different times a week. Whenever I have some time, I do these crypto happy hours where I just hang out, shoot the shit, drink beer, drink coffee, drink anything that I could find. So David Newsom, what is up, my dude? One of the original, one of the first crypto Bobby guys. So what is up, David? We still got 20 minutes left before I'm heading over to a meetup. So still got 20 minutes here to answer all your questions, hang out, and good to go. Michael, you said you only follow 3 channels of crypto. I don't have more time, so I am one. Don't let me down. Who are the other 2? Honestly interested. I have a couple other that I follow and really like. My 2 favorites are, I think my 2 favorites, quite frankly, Node Investor is one that I really like when it comes to technical analysis. If you guys are interested in technical analysis, Node Investor, Node Investor on YouTube. I have never talked to the guy before. I have no idea who he is, but I like his videos. He's got a good style. And then the other guy I like is Carter Thomas from Coin Mastery. Coin Mastery, I think it's 2 words on YouTube. I like that dude a lot. Seems pretty solid as well. And then actually one of the last guys too, Jackson Palmer, the founder of Dogecoin. He is starting to do some YouTube videos. Good dude. I've talked to him a couple different times on Twitter now. So Jackson Palmer is another one I'd recommend. He's really sharp. Works at a big tech company. Founded Dogecoin or created Dogecoin. So sharp dude as well. Michael, good choices, man. Good choices. Sweet. So checking out a couple different things here as far as I'll pull back from from an overall market perspective too. Like we talked about a little bit in the past, I'm trying to look at some still, a lot of these cryptocurrencies have recovered at least in some respect from the downturn of this China ICO news. I'm trying to look at some different places where basically trying to look at some different places where that haven't recovered as much as something like an OMG or even a Bitcoin, and try to deploy capital to those places as well. Ethereum has been one that's really gotten crushed. It's had a little bit of a recovery. Neo has obviously really gotten mashed and is still down. Qtum is still down quite a bit. So that's something to certainly keep in mind as I'm trying to look at basically. Yeah, David, I am still holding OMG. I had a video today. If any of you guys, after we finish this live stream, if you want to take a look over, it's my previous video today. But I just updated this portfolio today on September 6th. But OMG is actually, as a fiat percentage, probably it's either my largest or second largest holding as of right now. About 23%, 24% of my portfolio OMG is. So I'm bullish on OMG. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I haven't sold any. If that goes to say anything, just in terms of OMG, I'm positive on it, and that's where I'm riding and dying with OMG at this point. $47 Aquarium wants to see Ethereum short-term chart, so I'll just pull up that. Let's take a quick look at that. And again, too, I mean, Ethereum is, if we go back to my portfolio, Ethereum is at 32%. Granted, some of this is Moneta, actually, just with the ICO. I used ETH to get into Moneta ICO, so about half of this is Moneta, half is ETH. But Ethereum is still one of my biggest holdings. And so if I go over here, take a quick look on GDAX at the USD charts, look at 4 hours. Actually, we'll look a little more short-term for you. You mentioned short-term. So maybe we'll do 30 minutes or so. Take a look in here. Things have stabilized a bit around this. It's a little bit of a flat line today in some cases on this like 330 range. It's kind of hasn't really moved below 330, hasn't been able to push above 343, 342. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how and where Ethereum breaks out, if it's going to break in the 2 damn places, to the upside or the downside. I still am positive on Ethereum. I'm bullish on Ethereum for the long term. I'm excited to see how it could potentially move in the future. Like I said, I think with Raiden, with the advances from Metropolis, with the amount of people that use Ethereum, with the ERC20 tokens, basically just with the utility of it actually is a platform that people are using and somewhat justifies the valuation that it has, I'm bullish on Ethereum long term, even if this Chinese ICO regulation, BS kind of affects it more and makes it take a bigger dip. If it takes a bigger dip, if it goes back below 300, I'm buying more. So, that is what it is. David mentioned when he cashes out his OMG for a couple Lambos, he's going to buy a drink for me on his yacht. I would appreciate that. If I can do the same for you, I will gladly. I'm probably going to do a couple different things when I cash out. This is kidding, but I would love to. Pay off the house, get a Jaguar F-Type convertible, and a Jaguar F-Pace SUV for the wife. Maybe a Range Rover. We'll see. So those are pipe dreams, but I love it. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. 47 Aquarium, you the man. And just taking a look at some of these questions, and Steven, not Steven, Stavros mentioned ETH is way overdue for a spike over 500. It tried to break through twice. I tend to agree with you. As long as Bitcoin, and I think we're still kind of in the heart of this bull run. I don't think the China ICO regulation news is enough to bring it down. If more bad news comes into the space, yes, certainly, things can happen negatively and the price could drop back down. But if we stay on this trajectory, I would imagine, potentially ETH having another slow move. I mean, if we move back here, I'll pop it back into maybe like I'll put in the 12-hour charts. We'll do the one-day charts. So Ethereum had its crash all the way down to like 130 or 150 at one point in time. But over the month of August, it went from about 225 all the way up to close to 400, and then took this drop down to 290s. And is now, I think, going to be in a position to kind of chug along back upwards. I am hoping to see that. I'd like to see that happen. I think this was, a worthwhile shakeout and a good buying opportunity for a lot of people. So we'll see how this pans out in the future. But I expect Ethereum to eventually test its all-time highs and go past its all-time highs when the Raiden and Metropolis get deployed. I mean, if you look at Litecoin, with Litecoin, they deployed, they were able to deploy Lightning. They were able to, put in the technical advancements that they have been looking to do for quite some time. And, all you have to do is take a look at the charts and see what happened when those technical advancements actually went into play. It shot up from around $40-something and change to over $80 and is now back above 80 at this point. So I think, Litecoin is a good example of what happens when developers and the community kind of get together and actually get shit done, and the valuation is able to spike, which I'm looking forward to seeing Ethereum be able to match that, because it seems like, to me at least, that the Ethereum development community and kind of everybody else is on the same page about what they want to do, rather than, in a lot of cases, Bitcoin and the SegWit 2x versus no SegWit 2x drama, and now the Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin drama and a lot of that stuff. So I'm hoping that the positivity within Ethereum will kind of take it above 400. So Scott just mentioned two things. Somebody mentioned the Jaguar F-Type. I actually rented a Jaguar F-Type one time. That was awesome. It was like my favorite thing in the world. I rented it when I was in San Francisco for a work conference one day. I stayed there for the weekend and drove the Jaguar. I rented it on Turo, T-U-R-O, the like Airbnb for cars app. I rented it on Turo, and then so that's Christopher Dowling mentioned Turo. That's what I used to get the Jaguar F-Type. I rented on Turo. I drove from San Francisco to Half Moon Bay. I had brunch at the Ritz-Carlton in Half Moon Bay, and when I got, they have these valet drivers at the Half Moon Bay, and I ended up driving down to Santa Cruz as well, and then driving back up to San Francisco. But I was renting the car. I rented it literally for a day. It was like $200. And when I gave the valet driver my keys, he's like, "Hey, very nice car, sir. Beautiful color." And I was like, "Yeah, thank you very much." Just pretended like it was actually my car. I felt like the man, and that's all I have to say. But outside of that, somebody mentioned a couple different things. Scott and Kevin. So Scott mentioned you like the Coinbase to GDAX advice. I appreciate that. That was sounds like it's been a helpful video for a lot of people, so that's great to hear. And then Kevin mentioned you are new to crypto investing. What's the process to getting in on crypto, and what steps you need to follow to make an investment in one? So really, what I would recommend doing is, if you're in the US, or you might be somewhere else, but if you're in the US, head over to Coinbase.com and get an account. That's usually, in my opinion, one of the easiest ways. Some people, have some trouble with them, but for the most part, it's one of the easiest ways to get into either Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. And then once you have Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, you can head over to a market like Bittrex. You can head over to an exchange like Bittrex, and at that point in time, once you have Bitcoin or Ethereum, you can essentially trade your Bitcoin for something else like a Neo, or you could trade your Ethereum for an OMG. So I would recommend doing that for sure. And that's typically a good way to go about it. If you want to, I'll type it in here. If you want to go to Coinbase, I think that little link there, or let's see here. So that link should give you the HTTPS cryptobobby.com/Coinbase. If you want $10 of free Bitcoin, I think that link gives you $10 of free Bitcoin. So just use that link if you want to sign up for Coinbase. But that's, in my opinion, that's what I use to get my US dollars into Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then once I have money in Bitcoin and Ethereum, then I'll use Bittrex, or I use Ether Delta or whatever to kind of move money around, or Liqui, whatever. Going through some of these questions as well. A couple different people mentioned thoughts on the double top of Ethereum. Were you referring to Ethereum, or actually, yeah, double top of Ethereum? If you zoom out, we'll take a look. I mean, if we're talking about the top right here and the top right here, which are basically identical runs for the most part to 400 and to pretty much 400. Both times it's been pushed off 400. I think that we're in a very different place from now here where we were back then, back in June. So I think this was more of a FOMO-driven rally, which is why you see this massive downshot. And I think this is a little bit more technical driven and a little bit more of actually technology driven of a rise. So I'm hoping that that's going to spell positivity for the Ethereum space. But definitely get what you're saying there. Christopher mentioned Gemini being faster than Coinbase. I've heard really good things about Gemini. I personally don't use Gemini at this point in time, but I've definitely heard good things about Gemini for sure. And one person, 47 Aquarium, mentioned fees are 4% on Coinbase. I would definitely recommend, once you get a Coinbase account, to get a GDAX. So I made a video on it previously. I think if you just search Coinbase and GDAX on YouTube, or if you check out my channel. But basically, Coinbase owns GDAX. And if you, let's see here, just to go to show, if you, where we got the fees. Try and see if I could just pull up this stuff right here for you. So the fees on GDAX are way less than they are on basically the fees on GDAX are a lot better than they are on Coinbase, because it's more designed for, here we go, basically the most you're going to pay on GDAX is a 0.3% taker fee, and you're going to pay 0% maker fee. On Coinbase, you're going to pay upwards of 4% if you're using a credit card or a debit card. You cannot use a credit or debit card on GDAX, but if you just do a direct deposit with your bank, or you do a bank transfer, you'll be able to avoid those fees. So if you're doing any type of significant volume, definitely use GDAX over Coinbase. They're owned by the same company. GDAX is literally a Coinbase website, but it's more meant for institutional traders and not as much for like retail investors. So it's a much better platform. I really like it a lot, and I would definitely recommend using it. So when I trade and when I buy cryptocurrency, I use GDAX. I actually don't really use Coinbase as much, just because I'm all about avoiding those fees. I mean, like I said, you can literally buy cryptocurrency with a 0% fee on GDAX, and you don't need to make even a new name. You can just sign in with your Coinbase account, like you see here, which is really nice. So it's just the same. Use the same Coinbase account. If you have two-factor authentication, use the same two-factor authentication code. It's solid. It's good to use for sure. Sweet, guys. Well, I'm actually about to head out to the meetup that I was talking about previously. If you are new to the channel, I would really, like I said, really appreciate a subscribe, just so you can get to see when these videos come out, when I do go live on the channel. Thank you so much for your time and for your questions. If you guys ever need anything at all, seriously, please let me know. Hit me up in the comments. Basically, hit me up in the comments. You can go to my website. My email is there, rob@cryptobobby.com. If you need anything, follow me on Twitter. Basically, I'm available pretty much all over the damn place by smoke signal, carrier pigeon, whatever you need. Just hit me up. Let me know. Happy to help. That's really why I'm here. It's just to kind of hang out, help you out as much as possible, learn from you as well, try and keep my fingers in the market. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys have a great day, night, wherever you joined in from, and have a good one. Peace.